Hello, my name is Philip. I'm your trainer today. I'll train you on for loop in Python. As we discussed in our previous tutorial, we discussed on while loop. We said that there are two primitive loops in Python, and we discussed on how you can write a while loop in Python. So in this case, we'll discuss for loop. For loop, they are just used to execute codes that are of a certain number or a specific number of iteration, but in Python they're just used to execute lists, sequences, and tuples. Okay, we have said that in Python they are used to execute lists, tuples, and sequences. Okay, right. We may have, so for the first thing, you'll just need to come here, then you create a new file. You may name it as for loops, then you can just say py, okay, with an extension of py. Okay, so we have created a new file with that one. So we have said that they're used to execute list, tuples, then sequences. Okay, that's all about for loop. For loop in this case, we'll discuss break statement, we'll discuss also continue statement, we'll also discuss else statement, we'll discuss nested loops, then we'll also discuss pass statement. Alright, so we have said that we may have an example of a list. Let's say we have a list for cars. Then you can just have something else like, let's say, Mercedes. You can have that one. Then you can have something else hard. Then you can have something else as Ford. Okay, right. You can have Ford J. Then, so this is a list. This is just a list. You can have as many elements. These are called elements now. These are called elements. You can have as many elements as you wish. Okay, so let's say we may have an example for the same to illustrate for loops in Python. We can have, let's say we have said that cars, we can have, let's say, Audi, you can have Ford, you can have Toyota. So this is just a list. We've said that you can use for loop to execute a list in Python. So you can have for x, then, so this is, we may have something that you just need to space once, then you can have in cars, then you can have semicolon there, and there is an error here. Okay, okay, we may have print x, so you may run your program and see the outcome. All right, you see now it prints out this list. Now it print out these elements. You can see them here, over here. So they just, it just printed out there out for the Toyota. That's all about how you use for loops in Python. Okay, right. We may have another example. We may use for loop to execute or to iterate through a string. We've said that string is just a text or just a sentence or several characters. Let's say we have So this is just a list. Hello world. So this is just a string. So this is just a string. So we have said that you can use for loop to illustrate or to iterate through a string. Now you can just say print x. Okay, right. You can run your program and see the outcome. All right, you see now it prints out hello world. Hello world. You see, hello world. So that's all. Now we have said that you can use for loop to iterate through a string. Now the other thing we'll be discussing is something else so special and so specific to this part called range function. We'll discuss range function. Range function is just used to loop through code with which have specific number of times, or it returns values that start from 0 and it answers values 1, which is by default, which is just by default, so it will be just adding the numbers by 1. Okay, right. You may have an example to illustrate the same. You may have for y, or just, okay, let's say for y in range, you can have, let's say, 5. Okay, you may have 5. Then, okay, you can just say print y. Okay, right. You can run your program and see the outcome. Alright, we said that range is just used to count the numbers starting from 0, then it ends by 1. Okay, right, you see it has started 1, 2, then if we just go down, it will just find 3, 3 and 4. Okay, 3 and 4. Okay, that's what we said. So the other thing, you can just remember, you can just specify the where should it start. You can just say by range, you can just say, let's say it start from 3 or 2 to something else like, can I have something else like 6. Then you can run your program and see the outcome. All right, you said that it is should start from 2, so it will have 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is what we are saying about now. We have 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, now the other thing we'll be discussing, it's how you can just set by the value it should add with. So you said that you can start, let's say you are starting from 2, then to 9, then to 9. Then you can just set, we have said that by default it adds by 1. Then you can just decide to set your own value. You can just set by 2. Then it means that it will be adding the values by 2. So if it's 2, it will add 2, you get 4. From 4 you get 5, or from 4 you get 6, from 6 you get 8. So that's all. So you can run your program and see the outcome. Right, we've said that it will be adding by 2. So we have 2 here, we have 4, 6, then we have, should be 8 now. Okay, so we have 8 there. So that's all about range function. Now the other thing we'll be discussing with is something else we call break and continue. Or let's, before we discuss that, we can have else statement, then we can have something else we call nested. So we can have something else we call else statement. Let's discuss else statement. Else statement is just used to show the code which will be executed when the loop or iteration come to an end. We have said that it may come to a point where iteration may come to an end. Let's say, as we have been discussing in other examples, so you may have another statement that should be printed out when the iteration come to an end. So we may have an example here. Let's say for x, then you may have in range, so in range you can just set to something else like 4. Okay, after setting to 4, now you can just say, okay, sorry for that, you can have print x. Now we've said that, as we have discussed in our previous part on range function, now it will print out the numbers 1 2 3. All right, now we've said that else statement is just used to indicate the statement that should be printed out when the iteration come to an end. So you may have print, then you can just say, the number is not in range. All right, so this is just intention that we can have that one, then you can just, okay, right. Now after that you can run your program and see the outcome. All right, we've said that else statement is just used to print out the statement that when the iteration is not true. So when you indicate this one, is just print out numbers 1 2 3, then you will have the number is not in range. Now this is a statement that is printed out when the iteration is not true. All right, so that's all about else statement. You may have an example for yourself. Know that. So the other thing we'll be discussing about is something else we call nested loops. All right, nested loops. Nested loops is whereby we have for loop inside another loop. All right, like you may have 2 loops just in one program. That's all what you call for loop. Okay, let's say you may say you have first list for cars, then you may have list for cars, then you can have Mercedes, you can have Ford, you can have Toyota. So that's the first list. Okay, right, this is a first list. Now you may have another list for drivers, you may have another list for drivers, you may have, let's say, Philo, you may have John, you have John, then we can have Francis. All right, that's the 2 lists that we have, right? So you can have something else like for X, then you can just say in cars. So that's, then you can have for Y, you can say in drivers, right? then you can just say print x to y. You can have print x and y, right? Now let's run our program and see the outcome now. All right, we may have, so we have said that nested loops, so whereby we have two loops inside that. So this is first loop, then this is the other loop. Okay, right. May have this one Mercedes. It produces Mercedes for Philo, it produces Mercedes for John, and it also produces Mercedes for Francis, right? So this is all the program. You may have Toyota for, so each car it prints out with drivers. So if it's Mercedes, it prints out for all the drivers. If it's Ford, it prints out for all the drivers. Then Toyota for all the drivers. Alright, hope you understand, right? So the other part we'll be discussing now is something else we call break and statement, break and continue statement. We'll discuss something we call break. We'll discuss at break statement. It may come a point whereby you're just writing a program, then you just need to break it before it comes to an end, right? You may just you just need to break it before it comes to an end. So let's say we may have, let's say, cars. Okay, so this is just a list. All right, may have something else like Mercedes, may have something else like Ford, may have something else like Audi, we may have something else like Lexus. We have Lexus, alright? So this is just a list. As you know, it should out print out the whole list from Mercedes up to Lexus, right? But you can just decide to break it. It just ends at out, right? So we may have 4 in cars, okay? So that's, then you can just say print y. Oh, right, not y, x. This is x. Huh? Okay, then you may have if x equals to out break. Alright, now this is the program. Now you may have this list, but you've said if x equals to out, so this is the values for x. So if it equals to so we may have, sorry for this, we may have full column there, then you may have alright. Now we have said that if x equals to odd, so it should stop at this point, so it will not print out Lexus. Alright, let's run our program and see. Right, you see now it prints out Mercedes, Ford, and Audi. You see, this is the last element that is printed out. Lexus is not printed out because we have just indicated that it should stop at Audi. You can just say stop at Ford. Right, you can just run your program and see the outcome. Right, it's just to print out Mercedes and Ford because you've just said it should break. Your program should stop at this point at Ford. So that's where your program stops. Right. Now The other part will be discussed now. We have just said break, whereby you just need to decide, or you just decide to break your program before, or iteration before it comes to an end, right? But now we may have something else we call continue, whereby after you break your statement now, you break your loop, you can just decide to continue. So this is what you called, or what you call continue continuous statement, right? Continuous statement, we have said that in this case we can't just stop in a particular iteration of a loop then start the next iteration. You can start another loop, all right? So you can have the same example we have indicated. All right, so this is your program now. You said that this is a list now. This is just a normal list. Then you just for in x in cars. If x stops at Toyota. Now we've just indicated that if x equals to, or just is equivalent to Toyota, just continue. So in this point, it will just stop at Toyota, then it will just continue. It will just continue normal. So just stop at this point, then in the program continues. Now this is just right. Okay. All right. Now you can run your program and see the outcome. All right. So we've said that in this case, continue. So the program will run, then it will stop at Toyota, then it will just continue and complete the loop, right? So it prints out Mercedes and hold, then it stops at Toyota. So Toyota is not printed out. Then it continues and prints out VX, V6 and V6 and Lexus. Alright, so Toyota is not printed out. So that's all about continuous statement, whereby a loop stops at a certain point, then it continues. Right? Now, the last part in our tutorial today, we'll look at what we called pass statement. Pass statement. Pass statement now is whereby first thing you just need to know about for loops. For loops is not or cannot be left empty, or cannot be just blank, cannot be blank now. So but you may find certain illustration a loop, your it's just blank, right? So you just need to avoid errors, you just use pass, statement. For instance, let's say just to say for y in 0 6 7. So that's just something which you don't know what is it now. You have not indicated it's a range or it's what. So it's something that should bring an error. And even before you do it, it's just an error. You see now? But let's run it. Let's run it and see. Alright. Here we can run it and see. See now it did the break and the education error. So this is just an error by itself. So to avoid all this, you can just use pass. Pass is just used to remove those errors. So you see now, everything is okay. See now, your program is okay, right? So pass statement is just used to avoid errors in your Python program, right? When it's just empty, or you can just say, let's say, when you just leave it as that point. So as you know, this one should be either a list or something like that. So you can just choose pass to avoid all those errors. Now that marks the end of our tutorial today. Thank you guys for listening to me or watching my video. Next on our tutorial, we'll discuss more about arrays. Remember to subscribe, like, and share with our videos. Keep updated for more awesome video tutorials. Thank you.